Good afternoon, and welcome to TecHomeX West 2019. I'm John Galante, president of AE Ventures, and on behalf of all of our staff, I'd like to extend our thanks to everyone for taking time out of the office or away from the field to come to the event. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about purpose. Let's start with AE Ventures. You probably think the purpose of our company is something like to produce market-leading events, but it's not. It's to drive extraordinary progress, to help you improve and grow faster than you'd be able to do otherwise. Our purpose is tied to what you do with this event experience, how you make it count. For our guests, do you capture a handful of really good practical ideas, meet with 5 or 10 peers or trade allies that you can connect with on an ongoing basis for advice and assistance? Do you connect with 5, 10, maybe even 20 prospective vendors who are offering products you can incorporate into your mix? Did you find a few folks at those companies who care about more than just moving their product to and through you? Did you find some sponsor staffers who genuinely are ready to be trusted advisors and work with you on addressing the process issues that go with strong sell-through and customer experience with their products? For sponsors, did you build rapport and bond with guests? Did you discover their critical business needs and personal pain points? Did you learn about their technology planning and delivery processes and how you can fit in or even improve those processes? Did you truly position yourself as that trusted advisor who cares about more than helping a builder or integrator make progress than hitting this month's sales quota? And did you do the blocking and tackling of working to identify the additional info and next steps that make sense for the guests you meet? For all, again, it's about how you make use of the experience, how you make it count. And to make it count in the future, you'll need to do a couple of things right now. Number one is an old refrain from the hippie era. It's an oldie and a goodie. Please, 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 be here now. You're big boys and girls, so we're not going to take your mobile phones away, but I do encourage you to go to airplane mode. Filter some of the outside world out for at least for sessions like this one, your boardroom presentations and one-on-one meetings. Connect in the here and now with this great group of people and professionals who also want to grow and improve. I assure you, you'll get more out of the event with that approach than if you continue to let yourself be distracted from distraction by distraction. The second thing I'd like you to do as we kick off here is to become mindful of your goals at this event. Guests, you got a mini notepad at orientation. If you have not already done so, could you please pull that out and open it? And I want you to answer 3 questions. Number 1, what product am I hoping to get a handle on at this event? So up on the screen, we've got our TecHome product taxonomy. Pick a category, a big one or a subcategory where you really feel like you want to get to know that product and be looking for that and asking about it. Number 2, what application do I want to get a handle on? So that could be your technology play for a specific room or space. I've outlined a number of them on this slide. It could be tech that addresses a specific lifestyle cohort. I just added Health Freak to this list. And it could be solving a specific problem or something that provides a specific kind of benefit. So write down your top application target. It could be by type of benefit, it could be lifestyle, it could be room by room. Number 3, which process on what we call the TecHome collaboration process continuum do you most need help with and want to address here? Here's the continuum slide. Where do you need the most help? So now that you've answered those questions, you know what you're looking for at this event. check in on these goals as you work the event, ask for help, and hopefully you'll come away with what you're looking for. For sponsors, I want you to pull out a business card and write on the back of it the one area where you can help builders or integrators that goes beyond your product or service. And I would suggest, thinking about these process categories as you do that. How can you help catalyze improvement in one or more of the process areas? Write it down, put it in your pocket, and remember, delivering value like that is the key to establishing trust and really learning what a prospect needs and will value from you and your company. Other folks who are here to help you on collaboration process improvement are our team collaboration mentors, Jim Carroll, Mike Moore, and Noelle Tarabulski, three of the brightest and sagely experienced professionals I know in the technology and builder space. They can help with ideas in all process areas. They'll be on stage throughout the event and in our team collaboration center in the exhibit, so take advantage of their wisdom and connections while you're here. And with that, again, my thanks to all of you here, and I'd like to welcome to the stage the sponsor of today's kickoff roundtable session, Steve Padberg, Head of Special Markets for eero, recently acquired by Amazon.
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. Great to see you. A lot of old familiar faces here. This is actually the 5th TecHome show that I've participated in with eero. So I guess that makes me a little bit of a veteran and doesn't really give me the credibility to speak here, but it is really great to be back. This is one of the favorite shows we participate in all year, and there's a lot of value that comes out of it. So I think all the things John said, I echo those. But I do want to add an additional question and challenge to this, as we have a group of builders and integrators for this week to really challenge yourself and your smart home strategy. And I'm going to walk through a little bit of what I think that looks like, but over the course of the next couple days, I really would hope that you would extract some part of your strategy, and I think outside the box a bit. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, even some of the things I'm about to tell you about. If you're a builder, you might find a suggestion and walk out of here that you should incorporate some more budget for technology in the houses you're building. At least I hope so. If you're an integrator, some things about is pulling a wire into every room of the house still adding as much value as it used to 5 years ago. So there's some things that might stretch you, but what I'd like to kind of lead with is another question is, how can you leverage technology to give your company a clear advantage in attracting more customers? Because really we're all about customer acquisition, and as the market turns, that's the most difficult thing, and that's really why you want to use technology. So as we talk about that, I want to first set the stage and kind of give you guys some context in the marketplace. We're in the middle of a revolution with connected devices, and they are proliferating like mad. So in the Internet of Things, or IoT, by 2020, which is now only a year from now, we're going to see 20 billion devices. So a year from now, there will be 20 billion connected devices in the marketplace. And I think we all know that, especially if you've attended these shows before. We've seen some of this data. But the other part I think that's overlooked a little bit as you guys start to think about your smart home strategy are the services that come with those. I think every household now and everybody in here is streaming Netflix and Hulu and those kind of things. But there's other services, like we provide a service where you can ensure that your browsing history is safe and secure. These are all services you should start to think about adding to your repertoire that you're offering to your home buyers and your customers. So again, we're going to see nearly double of internet usage over the next 2 years, and that we're in a period of history that is exponentially growing. To back that up, here's a little bit of data that suggests that over 50% of that is actually going to be consumed over Wi-Fi. By the way, our company does Wi-Fi, and I'll give a shameless plug more towards the end, but over 50% of the consumption of these services and these devices are going to be proliferated over Wi-Fi, and that includes even with the advent of 5G. 5G is really still down the road. It's going to be expensive for a while, and the adoption rates are going to be slow to start. So that's what's happening. But in today's home, really we're still left with some challenges. The barriers have changed. The barrier maybe even 2 years ago was the internet coming into the house. That was the bottleneck. But now really it's actually inside the house, where we have devices that are proliferating out to the front door of the house, the back bedrooms. The modem isn't necessarily located in the place where those connected devices and lifestyle are living and those services are being consumed. So we have to really look at that problem and address it. So as we start our smart home strategy, I think that's why connectivity really needs to be the band that circles us all in. It's really the most important infrastructure investment you can make, is to make sure all the connectivity that you're going to put in the house, whether it be devices or services, they actually work. And connectivity is the cornerstone to that. So a great hybrid network has a wired backhaul where you have a mounted system in the ceiling for Wi-Fi that's back to the internet via wired connection. And that allows every device in every corner of the house to connect automatically, seamlessly, securely. And there are a lot of features and benefits to that should be considered. But really, connectivity, if you have that as your base of your pyramid, you can really develop a great product for your customers. Beyond that, the next part to really consider, and you guys may think about this in the back of your minds, but think about how you live in your homes. And really, control is the next component to that. Control is the ability to automate things, and it can be as simple as a $30 Alexa Dot. And again, there's my shameless Amazon plug. Yes, we did get acquired, but that was already in my presentation before a couple weeks ago. Really a $30 Alexa Dot can do things like turn on your lights and play the music in the morning, do all the things that a $3,000 very sophisticated home automation system can do. The difference being is they have to work. And as simple as Alexa is, sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. And there's a lot of demand as well for the high-end marketplace with having a lot more bells and whistles to the automation. So knowing your customer is critical in this. Then really we get to the component level. And I think this is where the industry's changed, especially for home builders. 5 years ago, everybody jumped in and said, hey, we're going to, and Nest Thermostat really started this push. We're going to connect our devices to make sure that our home is smart. It's really a kind of a narrowed approach, and I'm suggesting you take a more holistic approach to start with the infrastructure and build your way up to these components. They are proliferating as well. You can really see any device that you put in the house now has connectivity, even a water faucet. But you have to think through, what of those are going to be something a customer's going to use all the time? Is it something that's going to really add value? Is it going to easily connect? Is it going to provide problems, or is it going to provide solutions? I had one integrator tell me that 30% of the devices a builder is putting into their standard package, homeowners don't even want unboxed. They'd prefer to give it away as a gift because they're just either not comfortable with it or wasn't appealing to them. So it's a good example to really understand how those come together. And these devices can be expensive. They can be adding a lot of cost to your homes. Just keep in mind, we're packing a lot of technology into something like a smartphone that costs $1,000. Actually, mine's about 5 years old. It costs less than $1,000, but it does the same thing. It's a very valuable piece of technology. In fact, probably the most valuable piece of technology you own. You can think about it, it's $1,000 worth of componentry into a small space. Think of your door locks the same way. They're really devices that provide a lot of technology in a small space. So really, now that you've thought through the infrastructure piece, of course your customer's at the center, and similar to what I was just suggesting, you need to make sure that these are services and devices and technology that the customers want. But think a little bit differently too. Will your customers be streaming Netflix or Hulu? Is that something maybe you can add on as a homeowner move-in gift when they move in, and now you're providing something different that your competition isn't? You can take a look at these devices and say, is it something a customer is going to use every day? And also, is it going to enhance my everyday business, like building a home, or is it going to detract from it? Does the service levels work? Does the warranty support it? Think through that holistic part of the strategy. So part of that too is also security to add into those components, really all the way across the board, and making sure that the devices, the infrastructure, the services are all something where you're going to not have a PR release that says I've neglected my customer's data and it's gone elsewhere. That would be bad. So you want to consider that as you go throughout. So quick plug on eero. We do offer a whole home Wi-Fi solution. It can be both wired or wireless. It's really known as the fastest, most robust system in the industry. We work on mesh technology, which takes different spaces in the house, and we put components throughout. They all talk to each other. What that gives homeowners is really four things. The first is entertainment-grade Wi-Fi, so they can literally stream a video in any corner of the house without a wire. It gives them great connectivity, which is reliable. So really, interoperability works with almost any device in any location in the house. So you're essentially an insurance policy for the devices you're putting in are actually going to work. And then best-in-class security. We use over-the-air updates with cloud-based infrastructure to give security updates in real time. So customer never has to worry about if their devices on the network are secure. And then great user experience. So we have an app that, for instance, can say, hey, we've got a new device on the network. Would you like to allow it? Would you like to control the internet when somebody comes over, and you can text them or email them and have them just have access when they walk in the door. You can also, my favorite, which works in my house at 12:30 at night on a Friday, you can now control the internet to automatically shut off and tell your kids the robots have taken over. So some awesome user-friendly features with regards to that. So again, just to conclude, and again, appreciate the opportunity to address you guys. I'm looking forward to having beers, having meetings, and meeting up with many of you. But I want to remind you of the challenge to really think about how you can leverage technology to create a real difference in the market between you and your competitors that's going to help acquire more customers for you. So thanks again. We're at booth 217, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Steve and eero, for your sponsorship of our roundtable today. Now, please welcome our presenters for our roundtable, Noelle Tarabulski, Jim Carroll, and Mike Moore.
Make sure we get this whole thing. Greetings.
Hello, all.
It's bright up here. Basically, this conversation is about trying to get you folks talking to each other and appreciate the environment that we're in so that we get into the details of this. I'm going to talk about pre-development and planning. Mike's going to talk about presenting to the buyers. Jim's going to talk about installation in the field. Then we're going to talk about challenge questions for you, where you're going to have about a combination of 20 minutes to discuss it, mix it up as a team of a couple tables, and get some good ideas out of this. So basically, I just want to discuss my background. I've been in the housing business since '86. I started with Toll Brothers, and I built communities and worked with the company as it went public, and worked in the Northeast. After that, I've been working with builders around the nation since 1991, helping them improve operations and make great things happen. You get to know me and the team here. We're going to be here the entire time, which is great because we can have some in-depth conversations. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, before I do, how many builders in the room? Ah, nice. Integrators. Manufacturers? Okay, good.
Okay.
We got the people that got to do the work. Yeah, I'm Mike Moore, and I've actually been working with home builders and mostly on the personalization side of homes, how to sell homes, how to sell more homes, and how to embrace personalization, whether it's through the design center or through on-site. But it led me down this. In 1996, I started a project and built the first online design studio and sold it in 2009. Last year, it did $3 billion worth of product through the system that's just options and upgrades. And that's not with any of the public builders. That $3 billion was with independent individual builders and not, so it's a large $3 billion, and it's the largest online system. So the technology for me was nice starting out, and I liked it, but the biggie is how do you roll that into the personalization process of homes when just building one's hard enough, isn't it? No, even if you don't have to make any changes. So that's mine, and we'll be talking about it, and I'm available. You see me, just stop me and let's talk. Jim?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim Carroll. I'm coming more from the perspective of the manufacturers. I had founded a business, God, it's 14 years ago now, Savant Systems, and I got to meet a lot of you builders by trying to sell you smart home technology, and at a time when most of you folks didn't want it, quite frankly, right? I mean, unless the architect forced it on you, you wouldn't allow it, and a lot of times the integrators that are here, they were told by the builders, don't color outside the lines, just do what we agreed to, right? Don't let this turn into a science project. Through the years, we started selling to mid-market through Best Buy, and we launched a production builder program at one point. So for the folks on the builder side, got a lot of experience trying to convince you to do this, where today I know, through the consultant I do today, that almost all of the 200 top builders have standards for technology, right? Some have standards and options, some just deliver a platform to be sold from. And I think the majority of new homes have some level of technology in them today. So we've come a long way, but it's still very confusing. I'm going to spend the next couple of days, the three of us, along with John and his team, and all of you, to try to demystify some of that, right? To try to connect the dots, right? What does this all mean? And promise you we'll do our best. We've got a great panel here of mentors, and John's team does an outstanding job as always.
Great, thanks. Well, basically, I'm going to talk about what builders don't like to do, and that's really plan and get ahead of the curve. There's probably a lot of folks. How many people in here are in purchasing of your companies? All right, I feel sorry for you folks because you never get to have any pre-development time or planning time typically. Hopefully you do, but I'm going to talk about the need for assembling the team and really planning technology. You're probably doing some aspect of this right now, but let's begin with the end in mind. The whole purpose of this is to create an environment where we have industry relations and vendors and other builders. I hope there's a lot of builders from various markets here. Find some builder buddies that can really help you out. I found in my consulting, I hook up a lot of builders with other builders that don't compete. TecHome is a great platform for continuous improvement. Just constantly, don't do that start, stutter, stop, that kind of thing. This is an environment where you hook up with the industry professionals, you talk to other builders, you get into the habit of continuous improvement. The customers are going to benefit, and you're going to stand out among your peers in the marketplace. And it's really important right now because I think everyone has seen a little bit of a sales softening, and that differentiation will show up here. The efficiency gains that we hope to get here, you should see in your process flows with each of you working together, the vendors, your teammates and coaches here, and you should have net profit gains. Mike and I have been known each other a long time, and there's times when we're like, there's so much money we leave on the table as an industry, even when you're making, 8-10% net. Mike and I have been doing this long enough where we know we can pretty much double that through tons and tons of efficiencies that we have an industry accept, inefficiencies that we just accept. So research, planning, and ROI are related. These are just all the elements that go into what are we going to do here? How are we going to present ourselves to the public? I would tell you right now, get a handle on how you're going to go about this, and that's part of the reason we're here. Research is essential. This is a great venue for research. Many times I'll go to builders and they're having these disputes. And then I just raise my hand and I say, okay, how many of you have gone out and asked questions of your sales team or buyers coming through, or gone to your tech providers and asked them, what's hot, what's not? And they're like, well, none of us have because we're just starting this idea. That's where you begin. Start researching the process. Make it a quarterly event. I'm a firm believer in market comps and as a habit in home building companies, with any industry practice, vendors, manufacturers. If you don't have research as a part of your practice, you should. Okay, you have to have the process flow of how to get all this going. You have to have team leaders. Mike's going to talk about that. What are the skill sets that we need? The natural tension of all the people that make great tech delivery happen is a good thing, because that tension tends to bring better results. If you sit there and you're an electrical installer and haven't done low voltage or intersected with all the different aspects of the field install, and you don't say a word, shame on you, because that's your moment to say something. Basically, once you assemble a team and you get the team working together, be realistic about your timelines, understand how you as tech partners can work together. That's part of why you're here for TecHome. This allows you the time to really ponder, is this a great idea, and how can we make this work? And especially in some of you are here are in multifamily environments. It's a much different thing where you have those smaller units, a lot of different chase issues, and where are you going to run, your vents, and they interfere. There's so much complexity in multifamily or smaller homes even. Basically, this whole process here is continuous improvement. Get in the habit of it and research it. Okay, deploying it. I'm just going to go quickly through this. You have to create content. Part of that is right here, content creation. What do we need to have for the customer, for the builder, for the diagrams, for the tech issues? What are the cut sheets look like? Who's going to own that? Who keeps it up? What are the metrics of success as you do this process? If we're going to judge or just score each other and how are we doing, how are we going to know that? Your turnaround time, how fast does it take us to get to the marketplace? Then you get into scheduling. How does it affect your starts, your rough, your finish work? These are all critical elements that we're going to talk about in the course of the next few days. Then contract execution. This is where it really gets me, because all you folks in purchasing, you know the feeling. You write a great contract. You discuss the specifics of it, and then you deploy it into the field, but your superintendents are not reading it as a group. They're not enforcing it as a group. They're not giving you feedback. Now, part of it's our fault. In purchasing, we have to have meetings and get feedback. We need to involve others in this entire process so that by the time the field owns the installation, they really do own it, and they know what they have to execute on. Basically, these are the questions you guys, folks, should ask yourself. How do we get started on the research? Basically, you're going to have a primary team of vendors and others involved with you. What is your market position, your psychographics? What that means is, how are we going to be different, and what do we need to understand and know so that when we try to be different, we're on top of our game? How are we going to execute this? How is it going to flow through? What methodologies, what talent do we need? Do we need third parties to help us? Do we have some really great experts in the area? Deployment and execution. How do you take action and install and train and go through all of this? So once you've kind of done the plan and you have a vision, what's going to be the customer's experience, which is critical. Say you've done all of this perfectly well. Now, this happens more often than not. The sales team isn't trained, and the sales team goes, here's your selections, 1 through 20, and they ask a question and they go, let's read this over together. So Mike's going to jump in on that.
Ta-da. Home builders. Most of you again, raise your hand. I see it. There you go. One of the things for me that's come out in working with home builders, working with new home sales agents, is that we're an industry full of used home buyers. And what I mean by that is we've got, in the marketplace shopping for homes, we've got 53% of the shopping market that prefers a new home. Your biggest competitor isn't in the room with you or in your marketplace, it's my existing home. Because somewhere around 58% of the whole shopping market already owns a home. But if they're a new home buyer, if they're looking for a new home, the estimates now are about 75% of those new home buyers already own a home. So your biggest competition is my existing home. So the question I've been asking for several years to home builders is, what does your home do for me, the home buyer, that my home I bought 7 or 10 years ago doesn't do? What does it do for me? And one of the things about TecHome, and I have a design background and design center background, and on that level, I've been teaching design centers for years. Nobody wants floors, counters, cabinets, appliances. They want a finished home. They want finished rooms. I cut my teeth on that and increased sales looking at the whole picture. So now from a tech standpoint, how do you separate yourself? Do you build, this is a question for you, do you build new homes or do you build old homes that haven't been lived in? Our industry builds a lot of old homes that haven't been lived in. You know what I call those? New home fixer-uppers. What we do is we build a home. 73% of the agents we surveyed selling new homes, when asked how much do I have to spend at the design center, and that includes this, when I talk about design center, personalization, options and upgrades. How much do I have to spend? 73% of new home agents answer that in this iteration of some form. Oh, you don't have to do anything, our standards are fine. You can do anything you want to after you move into the home. Well, I just did 100 agents in San Diego, and I asked them how many of them were new home buyers. Anybody want to take a guess? In a major metropolitan environment, what percentage of the sales agents, and we were also doing the quarterly SMC awards, so we were giving out awards to the top agents in our market. Anybody want to take a stab at how many of those agents are new home buyers themselves? Yeah, there were actually 0. There wasn't one in the room. 100 agents, not one in the room. Now, that's okay. If you sell jets or yachts, you probably don't buy jets or yachts. But you better understand how multimillionaires and billionaires think. So as an industry, we need to get a handle on the fact that we're a whole industry of used home buyers, and we don't understand or acknowledge or even talk about how different a new home buyer thinks. I have an advantage. I've only bought new homes. I would only buy new homes. That's the only thing I would look at. So it's always, my bias has always been that way. My attic has extra carpet in it from my home I live in for the stairs, right? I'm in the industry, my stairs are going to wear out. Except my stairs start to get worn, and what do you think my first thought is? Is it call one of my clients to come install the carpet on my stairs? No, I'm a new home buyer. My stairs are dirty. What do I go do? Start looking at new homes. That's how stupid we are as new home buyers too. I can talk about myself, that way, but that's the way we think. We think different. So when we embrace technology and you get all this planning done and you get it put together, I want you to think about the agents and or designers and integrators in the room. That's why most of you want to meet with the buyer, don't you? Because you got to be able to make sure and talk to them so they know what they're doing. Okay, I'll pick on you for just a minute. Most of you as integrators talk about features and advantages and never convert it to the benefit for the home buyer. Because you're in the world of features and advantages. You understand what your product is and what it does, but it's still what it does for me. And again, I go back and I challenge everybody to think, coming out of this, is my home a new home? And how do I define it as a new home? And if I build new homes, how much technology should be in my new home? Would you buy a car today? And I've always hated comparing what we do to cars because it's not the same, except the tech is pretty similar. Would you buy a car today that didn't have Bluetooth and wasn't connected and didn't have backup cameras and didn't have, all the bells and whistles? No, you wouldn't buy it. Even if it was never driven, it had 0 miles, and it was a 2007 model at a good price. It's not a new car. It's an old car undriven. So, challenge. And here's the one that's interesting. Noelle said, sales get a little soft, we get a little panicked. How many of you on the purchasing side have already started getting hit with, we got to value engineer the house, we got to decide how are we going to pull some cost out of that house, right? Had a 2-hour meeting with Bill Probert, who was a VP of Sales and Marketing for John Lang Homes back in the day. He's now retired and traveling and enjoying himself. But Bill said in his first downturn, here's what he was told. We just pulled all the microwaves out of the house. Bill said, that's great. It's $300 savings, right? Yeah. I got to sell the house for $3,000 less now. So you save $300, the house is worth $3,000 less. When you're looking at, and in a tougher market, if we get a little shaky, if I'm on the sales and marketing side, Kim, we need a better house to sell when it's tough, don't we? We don't need a cheaper house as much as we need a better product. And we're all in technology. Technology just keeps getting cheaper the last 10 years, doesn't it? All technology's cheaper, isn't it? Isn't all technology cheaper?
Except for iPhone.
Except for this, huh? Because they figured out if you deliver something that makes my life better and I get a relationship with it, you can laugh because every one of these guys. I was in the mall the other day, a woman had lost her kid and her phone. Which one do you think she was more worried about? Yeah, she wanted to find that phone. The kid would show up, she said. Huh? If you can make a relationship with your house because it adds value to my lifestyle, and there is no better opportunity today to do that than with technology. And we keep bantering about what should be standard and what should be options. And here's the other one. How many of you have been to some kind of seminar about the difference between millennials and Gen X and boomers? And you know what's missing in that one? Give you an insight. When you put the generations in the marketing funnel and they spit out a new home buyer, 25, 35, 45, and 55 think more alike than they do different. Sure, they think different going into the marketing funnel, but if they've decided they want a new home, number one reason is to personalize it. And we sell 10%, and we send 43% home, or 3/4 of those at least, home to fix up their house, because we want them to move and fix up the new one. And we want them to buy something that doesn't do enough for me than my home does. So as you present, and as you're working with agents, designers, integrators, we're going to talk a lot about how do you roll those things together to make a complete presentation to your buyer about how your home is going to beat their home. Don't worry about your competitor. Don't worry about the resale market. How is your home going to be better than the one I live in? And you want your agents, you want your design center, you want your integrators, everybody on the same page working together to make sure. But I would challenge you that most of this technology, if it's not in your home, you don't build a new home. You build a new home fixer-upper. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, click, click, click. I didn't need my slides.
Just move them over, buddy.
I hate it.
Thank you, Mike. I was
Thank
getting
you.
concerned when the timer was running down. You hadn't done any of your slides yet. So I will.
Yeah, I hate slides.
I'll skip through your slides for you. It's interesting, you know, the whole topic. We're talking about planning and process and selling what we make. I've had the opportunity through the years to speak after Mike a lot. And it's a good thing we have slides because I forget every time what I'm going to talk about because I get so involved with what he's saying that when he's finished, I go, oh no, what am I supposed to talk about? But I'm going to talk about the execution part, right? The on-site activity associated with introducing technology into the homes. I think every builder and integrator has been through this process, right? It's stopping just short of a hammer fight in the job site because subcontractors are in violent disagreement about what's supposed to happen. The smart home guy wants to put a speaker where the HVAC guys just put a vent, right? It's just so important because for builders of all categories, the high volume, the regional, the custom folks, this is cash flow. This is when profit starts leaving a job. When subcontractors aren't coordinated, they have to stop. Some cases they leave the job site because certain activities haven't taken place, right? So this is, you know, the 5 Ps, or 6 Ps in this case. This is really where profitability leaks out of the job on you. So preparation is absolutely key and essential to the execution, both for the execution at the time of the job, and then when the new homeowner takes possession of the job and they start thinking the people Mike were talking about lied to them because what they were sold doesn't match what they're walking into, right? And then all of a sudden, change orders start happening, subs come back on site, more profitability begins to leave the job again. So it's very, very important, and there's two things here that I really want to emphasize, right? First, if you're an integrator and the builder you're working with never asks you for your documentation or at least some time to go through what it is you're actually going to do, be very, very wary, because you're going to lose money on this job that you haven't thought about. Because if they're not spending time with you, they're not spending time with the other subs, and you're going to end up in a hammer fight in a job site over whose space that is on the wall. And if you're a contractor, if you ask your low voltage or your smart home integrator for their detailed designs, and they tell you this is simple, they do it all the time, there's no need to go to that level, I'd move on and find another integrator, because that is not going to be a good experience. I guarantee you that will not match what Mike's folks have sold. Yeah. So just some things as we transition into the roundtable to think about. And this isn't so much true with the high volume as with the other type of builders, but in the project management phase of this thing, as we're implementing, new technology, when home buyers select new technology from the design center, it's an awful lot like when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you start seeing the new cars everywhere, that same model. You start talking to your friends. It may be the first time that they've been introduced to some technology, but from the time that they agree to buy it to the time you finish their house, their expectations of that have changed. They're starting to understand it more. They realize friends and family may have this, so they're going to drift. So they may be in touch with the smart home contractor and not talking directly to you. So there needs to be a path of communication between the subcontractors and project scope shift or change and how you're executing on that. Very critical. And the other big thing is, communication across all the trades. Because that leads to job completion, significant completion, when you get invoice, right? When is it really done, and when do we transition out of delivering a home and the technical support of the home, right? The low voltage and smart home contractors in the room will have that customer long after you're gone, right? So they're going to be on that. That system's going to change and evolve over time. The demands of that are going to change. So, prior planning prevents poor performance, piss poor performance.
Great.
It's a lot of peas.
A lot of peas. 6 P's, Mike.
One thing I wanted to mention is that some of my experience with technology is that when you get all this installed, and how many of you get a new piece of technology and you read the owner's manual? Who's out there that does that? Start pressing the buttons. All right, so the home buyer gets a house, and this is one of our challenges, and we're going to talk about it here, is the home buyer gets a home and they can't even think straight, right? They're moving in their home, and how many of you have done a new home orientation walkthrough at least once in your career in the business?
There you go.
Okay, so most of the room, but I would suggest the vendors here do that, because what I found in working with the different builders over time is that if you give the buyer too much to process, they don't hear a thing that day. A lot of times I work with builders where we bring the gift two weeks later. When we put technology in the home, and I don't know how you address this, Mike, but you really almost have to segment that so that you separately.
Yep.
Right. It can't be bundled into that walkthrough. It's too much, and they don't hear a thing, and then they're calling you like, this doesn't work. So basically, what we're going to move to is challenge questions, and at your table, you have markers and a flip chart, and each of the tables have an assignment. So tables 1 through 6, and Tony, are we going to modify this a little bit, or we're good?
No, we're good here.
Okay, thanks. That sounds like God coming from the ceiling there. Anyway, tables 1 through 6, pre-development and planning stage, you're going to talk about that. And table 7 through 12, we're presenting the buyer stages, different challenges there. And 13 through 14, execution, install field, in the field. And vendors, the vendors that are in here, what would you like to see from your trade partners during the process? So then we're going to, once you do have those discussions on the challenge questions, we're going to reconnect with the tables next to each other, 1 and 2, and you're going to kind of get your thoughts together as a bigger group, and then we're going to get feedback from you as you move through these. So the questions themselves, Tony, do we need to flip through to give them to them, or where are we at with that?
Well, hopefully they were taking notes while you were going through, so they remember everything that you said, so we don't have to go back. We can leave this up here for you. So take the next 20 minutes or so, and tables 1 through 6, focus on the pre-development and planning stages. What would you like to see from your trade partners when it comes to tech and your working relationship? And then after those 20 minutes, we'll join with the table next to you. The even-numbered tables up to 10 are integrator tables. The other tables are builder tables. So the idea here is to get as many builder and integrator tables to be able to talk to each other and share their own ideas based on the first portion of that conversation. The space might be a little tight when you do that, so just sort of organize your chairs as best you can so you can have a discussion amongst yourselves. And then each group can report to the room what they came up with based on their conversations at the end of that extra 25 minutes.
And I'll circle around the groups 1 through 6 if you have any questions on my comments or any of that, and I'm sure you guys will do the same.
Yep.
We're available, we're mentors, so we're here to help make great things happen. So go for it, get to know each other and have great discussions.
All right, everyone, it's time to wrap up our discussions here. Hopefully these have been worthwhile for you over the last 45 minutes or so. So now what we'd like to do is to take what each table has come up with and share those with the rest of the room and continue to share ideas throughout this process. So like I've been telling you for the last couple announcements, if each table can have one person be prepared, even if it's not every idea you came up with, but 2 or 3 good ideas that you think are worthwhile that you would like everybody else in this room to know. So if we can start with somebody from tables 1 and 2 here to talk about the things that they came up with regarding the pre-development and planning stage. Do we have somebody with tables 1 and 2 who is willing to take the microphone here? Somebody's got it. Here we go.
I need a way. Can you hold this, Deborah, so I can see it? Hey guys, my name's Jared. I'm with Lennar Homes, and these are the bullet points we came up with on our checklist. Number 1, we think what would add the most value for a checklist working with our trades would be content creation. Specifically 3 levels of content creation. We think it's important to have the builder side, the vendor side, and then the customer side. So on the builder side, that content creation would be workshops, best practices, maybe just meeting with them out in the field to discuss what we're doing, where we're seeing success, what are their pain points, and how can we help with that. On the vendor side, it would be documents such as material specification sheets, best practices, holding meetings with these guys, making sure they know what products we're using, why we're using those products. And then the third level of content creation would be the customer side, and that would be job aids. Maybe it's just a checklist. Make sure your modem's installed. Make sure you've set up your accounts for Amazon, whatever you're using. And then client input, working with our customers, seeing what they want, what they're looking for in a home. How can we help them? Our next item was the trade contribution. Provide feedback. Let us know what your pain points are. Are you having trouble terminating cables? Do you not like the lock we've selected because it's hard to install? Any sort of feedback like that's really valuable. It helps our builders, it helps us. And then research interoperability. looking at our product roadmap. What are we looking to for the future? As technology progresses, we want to be sure we're staying up to date with the latest and making sure that our homes are adding the value for our customers. I think that's it, right?
Thank you very much. Some great ideas there to get things started here. Over at tables 3 and 4, we have a willing participant here.
I got voluntold. So I need another volunteer from my table, though, to be a sign holder, apparently. Thanks. Great. All right. So our tables, these are the things that we whittled away, the things we didn't agree on, if that makes sense. So this is a process of unification and love between the building side and the integrator side. So we both agree constant contact. We want a relationship that has contact both ways, where integrators are bringing us builders the newest, coolest stuff to put into houses, and then we're giving feedback on, well, we put that in last time and it didn't add any value to the house. And so we'll need sales meetings and trainings and stuff like that. And what goes along with that is our willingness, if you're in the pre-development stage and you're willing to work with a home designer to bring in and swallow your ego as a builder, bring in someone who knows more about stuff than you do to help work with an architect or a designer to get systems integrated into the home. Or if you are a tech person, willing to bring your technology and do talking. This, like, I'm volunteering to talk because no one else wanted to talk at the table. Well, you've got to be willing to talk to people you don't know and bring that in. And within that, the integrators really wanted to emphasize they wanted to be able to have the time to explain the why. Why is this something that's important to put into a home and not be talked over? And so as a builder, you want to make sure that you're a really good listener there. And then as builders, we asked for explain it like I'm 5 documentation, right? Because I personally don't know anything about technology, how it works. It's all magic to me. So I'm going to need pictures and drawings and colors and not a lot of just boring words. So I skip to the end. I want explain it like I'm 5 documentation. Then we also, and kind of this is where we all agree this is the most important part. We want opportunities for value engineering, possibly tiered packages of, how I can fit this into my budget and helping with the budgeting process and not ignoring that. It's easy to come in and say, hey, put in the coolest, latest, but it costs so much money that I can't fit it into my budget. So working together on budgeting, it kind of, as we've gone top to bottom, it got a little more intense in our talk. And so that's where we are with our checklist.
Thank you. I think a good takeaway there, clear communication being key. 5 and 6. We have a volunteer here.
I guess I'll take it. One thing that was pretty evident is getting to a level of trust between the integrators and the builders and interior designers. And in order to start the understanding was get a meeting very early with the influencers, which is the general contractor, interior designer, obviously the homeowner and the architect. That was paramount. The next thing was being involved early at the planning stage so that we can catch the what ifs, ensuring that the items from all the different disciplines, being HVAC, electrical, security, and all the other bits, will work all together as planned. As far as the relationship between integrators and the home builders and interior designers is not so much job specific, but to establish a conduit of education, ongoing education through lunch and learns, and establishing lunch and learn routines with supplier information or local intelligence of what's happening in the marketplace, and for competitive reasons, just having that flow of education. And then from the builders to the integrators and back and forth is where do the builders sit in the overall marketplace as far as benchmarking? Are they status quo, or are they value add, or are they a value proposition, so that we're not coming in blowing people out of the water with high expectations. Thank you.
Very good. Now we're going to move on to the presenting to the buyer stage here with tables 7 and 8. Who do we have here?
Hello, everyone. All right, so in regards to the buyer stage, we kind of came up with not really a checklist, but maybe 3 ideas of, or places where you could kind of have some thought around presenting to the buyers. Essentially, the model. You start off with the model. You say, hey, we have all these lovely features. We have Alexa. We have Schlage door locks. We have this. We have that. If you're presenting the model with all these bells and whistles, how are we then integrating that to the customer down the line when they do buy it as an option? When we demonstrate it, are the sales agents aware of how everything works? I mean, if you're going to sell as an option, you want it to be an upsell, whether it's included or not. How are we getting that across to the customer in a layman's term, or like he said, 5-year-old terms, so that way they understand it? And then the next stage would be the buy-in stage, when they're actually at the options portion of buying it, making sure they understand what they're paying for, what they're buying, how are they going to incorporate that into their everyday lives. Things like that we need to make sure we have clearly thought out. And then the next stage we had is the actual support stage. After they bought the home and everyone's kind of gone their own way, all the trays are done, everything's done with, how are we providing support for them in regards to the house? Are they just going to go look at the support number on each device? Is there any documentation for them to understand how it's all laid out? A schematic, so to speak. Is there a hub connected to this? How is this connected to that? How are we going to integrate that type of support for the home buyers down the line? And then we had another interesting kind of side note on, the integrators really want to provide support, but is it worth their time and money supporting some small IoT integrations versus them supporting a $50,000 integration in a really big home? So those are ideas that we need to really think about before we even look into doing IoT in the overall building of a house, because it sounds nice, but when it comes to being able to support that down the line, what kind of trouble are we getting into when the customers or the home buyers come back saying, hey, you guys sold me on this product, but it doesn't work? So kind of those ideas are what we came up with in order to kind of have a think tank, so to speak.
Great thoughts. Thank you. 10 and 11 here. Can we get somebody from one of these 2 tables?
Yeah. Hi. So this table's integrators and that one are builders. And the thing that we'd like to see more often is structured wiring with detailed documentation. We find that a lot of the new builders are kind of lax to include that in some of the homes out there. I think the other things that we need to do are explain the role of integrators. So what do they do? Does the future owner of the house know what an integrator is? Do the builders know what an integrator is? And to go back to the first thing, if we do the structured wiring with detailed documentation, it would be great to see some sort of standardization throughout the whole industry. It's not, when I started doing this, it was always, we're custom integrators. And that word has kind of gone down. So we do love to do that, but technology has come so far. There are certain bets that were hedged years back that are still paying off for people, like people who put Cat 5 in their house 10 years ago. They're still winning. Who sells the smart? The builder or the integrator? So that's a line we'd like to kind of have more clarity on. We're happy to sell it, but maybe the builder isn't happy with us selling it because we might overstep, or there needs to be better distinction between who does what there. But overall, both tables, I think we agreed, were that we need to demonstrate really demonstrate what we're putting in the home, what we're suggesting putting in the home. Let them operate it. You know, Andrew, you said we have a setup where they're doing this. They're unlocking the door. They can go somewhere and see this technology in action. And I think that helps everybody. That helps the builders understand what we're trying to do, and ultimately the end owner of the home. So.
Over to tables 11 and 12. We get through these last couple fairly briefly. We can give you guys a few minutes to stretch your legs before we start our keynote.
All right, thank you. What we believe the presentation to buyer stage really comes down to a primary thing, which is number one is education. Educating the buyers as to what the features and benefits of the myriad of products and services that are out there, so that they're informed about what they do, not necessarily the product manufacturer or name, you know. We want to keep it simple. We want to come together with predefined simple packages that tell them if they want more automation based, it's this way. If they want more lighting, they have this, et cetera, et cetera. We want to further education through integrated model walk, have the ability to, like you said over there, touch the stuff, turn it on, understand that this is how my lights go, this is how my stereo goes, this is how my other tech items go. Marketing materials for presentation. We want to have options. When I talked about features and benefits, it's not a specific product we're trying to sell, it's a specific application, again, heating or entertainment. So we want to give education to the buyers about what the things do. We want to maintain education with the trade staff so they know what the new products are doing, and of course education with the sales staff about how they're selling this stuff and turning it over to the integrators to get into the technical design, et cetera. The last thing we talked about was maintaining communication through all the parties through the entire process so that the tech drawings show up with the electrical drawings, with the architect knowing that he needs to provide pockets or rated protections or things like this, instead of it just showing up in the field without the whole group being on board about what's happening and how it's being implemented. Thanks.
And we have tables 13 and 14 here with the final stage here is the execution and the installation in the field.
One thing I've found sitting at the table with architects and designers and luxury home builders, we are all looking at it from a whole bunch of different directions. As myself, a builder, execution and installation, everything you said is what we need. We need more details. We need to define the scopes. We need plans that show us where to put the things in the house. We need the homeowners or the buyers to be more understanding of what they're getting and what they're getting themselves into. Just because you want everything, when you walk in the house, it doesn't mean that everything is going to work when you snap your fingers. Okay? Clear understanding, field training, not only to the pre-wire or the installers, but the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, the customer care guys that are out there prepping the houses, getting ready for the homeowners to move in. We need training all the way through and that. And then so we can turn the product over to the buyers and we have a little bit of knowledge of what's going on when their Alexa doesn't work, or their Wi-Fi doesn't work, or their USB port is not working. We need time. We need pre-development documentation. I think that goes with the more details and define the scopes. And then adequate text budgets to put the stuff in. You know, don't expect a $10 system on a $5 budget. Don't expect a $1,000 system on a $100 budget. So all these points that you guys made out that we went through here, we need all of that out in the field so we can build the house, build the product, take care of our buyers, and move forward with all this tech that's going to be different 3 months from now. Now, if we could build a house in 3 months and be done, then we're out of it. The tech is over, But if your house takes 6 months, by the time they start to build it, start to install it, 6 months later, there's something new. Information and training.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a great note to end on, bringing the end back to the beginning and things that you do early and how they can make life easier for you at the end of this process. So thank you all for taking part in our roundtable today. I think there were some really great ideas, and hopefully you were able to learn from each other as you discussed these challenge questions.